Hello friends and welcome. I am back just in time for patch 7.34e and then I am traveling again tomorrow, but regularly scheduled content will resume next week. Fingers crossed, I hope. That's the plan. Please don't abandon the channel. I'm still doing stuff, I swear. Oh my god, my water. Panic. Okay, the patch. It's nothing crazy. TI meta was defined by a couple heroes. They rose to the top, and many of those got nerfed. That's kind of the essence of this patch. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch the KL qualifiers because I was out of the country, and I'm not going to because now we're on a new patch, so maybe the meta developed a little bit while I was gone, but I don't think it did that much. So in terms of items, just some small buffs to items that were very unpopular, like Eternal Shroud, Helm of the Overlord, Vlad's, Pavis. I don't think any of these changes themselves should be like crazy, but they will be a little more, better. Hand of Midas was very popular. 10 seconds, what does that really translate to? If you were to buy Hand of Midas at, say, like the 10-minute mark, and then, the game goes to about 40 minutes, that 30-minute window, that would be 18 casts of Hand of Midas if you're doing it perfectly, which now with the recharge restore time, it's much easier to do perfectly, so you would get 18 casts. Now with this 110 seconds, that is going to go down to about 16 point whatever casts. So you are losing some as you go, but it's not too crazy that you can't buy Hand of Midas still if you need that kind of item, but it's not going to be as good, which I think is nice because a lot of people were going for this Hand of Midas playing for the very late game, and this is going to make that worse. Now, Heart of Tarrasque, we were in this Blade Mail Heart of Tarrasque meta for a little bit over this last couple patches. Blade Mail did get some small nerfs. It wasn't quite enough. Now we're hitting Heart of Tarrasque, and it hurts. But I don't know, it might still be enough. It might be one of those things that it's like, 7.34e, it's like, it's a little worse, but it still works, so you'll probably still see this. For the hero changes, Ancient Apparition was really good versus these high strength, high healing heroes. They're getting nerfed, so I'm not actually sure if Ancient Apparition also needed a nerf, because he was just good against very meta heroes that are now dropping out. But, I mean, he was in a good spot. He was probably good versus other heroes as well, so I think you can still play him. These changes, they hurt a little bit, but like it'll drop him a few percentage points and he'll still be okay. Bristleback, here's the one we got to know if this is enough. I'm kind of glad I took a break. I didn't have to deal with this bullshit, but I saw a lot of you guys having to deal with this. The Aghanim's Bloodstone plus all these quill sprays. It's pretty crazy. So nerfs across the board. Quill spray, 550 max damage going down to 500. 50 damage doesn't sound like a lot, but don't forget quill spray is happening all the time. So it's not just one instance of 50 damage. It is like 15 instances of AoE damage that he is then healing off the Bloodstone and everything like that, right? So I don't know if it's enough or maybe it's even too much, but it will be more significant than maybe you just read this once and you think 50 damage, that's not enough. Bristleback, the passive, not the hero, but the passive of the hero, it has a damage threshold, and every time you reach this threshold, it then shoots out another quill spray. People were only leveling up Bristleback, like the passive, once to get the threshold, and then if you leveled it up further, you would actually take less damage from the damage reduction, which you can't see on this, so I guess I gotta pop up post-editing. They would just leave it at one skill point so that he could proc quill spray more, even though he was taking more damage, but because he would do more damage, he would then heal more damage off the Bloodstone, and so that's kind of broken when you only want 1 point in an ability and you don't even level it up at the end of the game, like when you're maxed out. That's kind of silly. So they're going to increase the damage threshold here to 300 at level 1, and it will go down as you level it up. So I think this will encourage people to actually put points into Bristleback, which is good so that they can't just like jump straight into stats and get the best of both worlds. Hairball, the Shard, this was kind of ridiculous. He's supposed to be a close-ranged hero. Hairball, 1,500 cast range, like across the map. So down to 1,000 range is still pretty decent to allow a melee hero to slow you and catch up, but not like all the way across, cancel a blink all the way over there on that side of the map, right? That was kind of absurd. So that's a good nerf, along with the cooldown, I think is nice. Cooldown, of course, the Hairball ability, like what we just talked about, is good, but he is all about stacking the Quill Spray and the Nasal Goo, which didn't really get touched. But the lower cooldown his abilities are, the more you can stack those abilities up and get to these ridiculous points. So 3 seconds will matter in team fights. When he used to be able to cast this 3-4 times in a like decently long fight, it's now going to be like 2 or 3 times. Then the talent, also reducing the quill spray damage. That's going to take more time to reach the max stack damage. Busted hero number 2, Chaos Knight. So 5 base damage is going to hurt his laning stage, those early last hits, early kills. That definitely is painful for him. Chaos Strike, part of the reason he became so meta is because it starts to do more damage versus creeps, from 1.6 damage to 1.9 in 7.34D. So that meant he could also heal more in the laning stage. So it was very difficult to kill this hero. Like, if you did not kill him and you just got him low, but he was allowed to last hit a couple more times, he would just be back to full health. And it was very tough. So they are now increasing the lifesteal penalty from 40% to 70%, which means instead of healing from 60% of the damage against creeps, he's now only going to heal for 30% of the damage. So a 50% reduction that should hurt him quite a lot in the laning stage, and of course later on as he farms the jungle. And then Phantasm, this is a big one. Mana cost is going way the hell up at max level, 300 mana, which is very painful for a strength hero like Chaos Knight, who really doesn't build that many like intelligence or mana regen items. And don't forget BKB, not that he loves building BKB, but BKB has a mana cost, so like all these little things like Harpoon, things like that, right? That makes it very difficult for a strength hero to use all their spells as much as they would like. So this should hurt him quite a lot. This is like an extra spell or two that he can no longer use in a late game fight because he is costing 125 more mana. Dark Willow is not being nerfed as much as I thought she would. Shadow Realm is getting 2 extra seconds at each level, flat, not like adding up. So at max level, it is now 16 seconds instead of 14 seconds. For support Willow, this of course, sucks. It's annoying, but I don't think it's a huge deal. This is more a nerf to the Aghanim's Dark Willow build, which support could do, but it was more that cheesy but kind of legit carry Dark Willow build. And when you took the talents for Shadow Realm, the cooldown reduction by 2 seconds and then the duration up by 2 seconds, and then you get like an Octarine or a cooldown reduction neutral item, it meant there was a very small window to actually hit Dark Willow with right clicks, and then she might even build like a Eul's or a Wind Waker in the late game, and then it's like, when do you actually get to hit Dark Willow? So this is increasing that time frame, and it may not sound like a lot, 2 seconds, but that is enough time to get a stun in or something and prevent her from using it again, and maybe you can burst and kill her in that time, because she is, I almost said an intelligence hero. She's a universal hero now, but like she's not a usual carry who is extremely tanky. And so as long as you have a few seconds to land a stun or just a couple attacks in, you could kill her. The difficulty was just not being able to do that. So these 2 seconds should help with that. Dazzle was a superior tinker in the fact that you could take damage and then use your ultimate, and it would reset the 3-second, cooldown from taking damage, so you could just blink instantly. That made core Dazzle extremely difficult to deal with, and even support Dazzle, who managed to build a blink dagger, and so they are nerfing that, not touching the other stuff, which I thought is where they would go, since Dazzle was an extremely popular counter pick, and sometimes even just a first phase hero in the mid lane because he just shut down so many mid matchups. Many of those mid matchups getting nerfed, so I don't know if Dazzle's going to be as popular. Support Dazzle, I think, is actually pretty decent, and actually Pavise just got buffed, right? And some of these auras, which Dazzle always liked working with on his team, so that might be good for support Dazzle depending where the meta goes out. And for support Dazzle, you don't usually get blink, so it's like not a huge deal, but core Dazzle is going to feel this. Small drow buff, I don't care that much about it. Earth Spirit rolling boulder cooldown is going to begin when you start the roll rather than when you end the roll. For your frame of reference, when you roll without using a stone, it takes about 0.75 seconds, not about, exactly 0.75 seconds unless you collide with something earlier to complete that roll, and then that goes up a little bit if you take the increased roll duration, I think to like 0.95. And then if you use the stone, it goes up to like 1 second something. It is, I think, very close to 1 second or more than 1 second when you use a stone and you roll extra distance. So what that means is when this ability is only 4 seconds and you're a core Earth Spirit who built an Octarine core, you could roll and then stun them, hit them with a slow, and then roll is up again. And it became like impossible to run away from an Earth Spirit who is chasing you, the core or support. Like honestly, if you're a support without an Octarine, like you are still just constantly rolling into people, and it's a huge pain because he's been so good. But this will make it more difficult to get those chain stuns off or just like constant follow-up stuns, because there's now essentially an extra second he has to wait before he can use the rolling boulder compared to, this last patch. Black hole cooldown is going down by 20 seconds at level 1, and I just don't think that is significant enough for the hero. Grimstroke, I mean, like, a fraction of a percentage point, I would guess. Grimstroke, Inkswell going to do reduced healing versus creeps. That is understandable. I was seeing the Shard. Sorry, I don't know if I said that. The Aghanim Shard spell lifesteal that would then like heal you after Inkswell finishes or whoever your target was. And if there was a big creep wave, then you could heal like a decent chunk. That is going to be nerfed a bit, but not like a crazy amount. I think it's fine. If you like playing Grimstroke, the issue... pub games are tough to coordinate. If you're playing like party games and you still want to play Grimstroke, I think he's still going to be very good. Gyrocopter support players, this might actually be good for you. I'm not sure. Gyrocopter support was not very popular, but he's getting 2 extra rocket damage, which there are 10 rockets per second, 3 seconds without any talents. And so at level 1, this used to be 180 damage if every single rocket hit one hero or one target. And now it is 240 damage. And that is a lot for a level 1 spell. Now, of course, that damage can be split up between heroes and creeps, so that is the downside of it. But Gyrocopter support is all about winning the early game and winning the laning stage. And this is a lot of free damage he is getting in the early levels. So that could be good. I don't know. You guys try it out and let me know. Juggernaut has a little bit more damage on the early levels of his ultimate, so a bit more kill potential there. Kunkka, some nerfs across the board. He was already dropping off by the end of TI, but... he was still, one of the better heroes, I'd say. So some nerfs here, the utility of Ghost Ship, the damage delay being a bit worse, Tidal Wave. The best part of Tidal Wave should be the repositioning. So taking 70 damage off of it in the team fights, I think is fair. And it also prevents him from like one-shotting. It's not really one-shotting. You're doing multiple instances of damage, but you can do it from so far away. Like say you're defending high ground, you X yourself, you Tidal Wave, you run in, you use Tidebringer to like cleave the whole wave. That along with his 250 damage, pretty much one-shot a creep wave, and then the enemy just cannot push into you for another 30 seconds, and at that point, you just do it again. So very difficult for the enemy to deal with. Losing 70 damage should make it much more likely that the creep wave survives, unless he's like extremely farmed with physical damage for the cleave. Torrent Storm, losing a second and then 5 seconds more on cooldown, painful. So all small, like smallish things each individually, maybe like small to medium, but all combined should hurt the hero a decent amount. A little bit of a Leshrac buff here. I'm honestly not sure how strong this will be, since I don't think chasing people down was like his issue. And so the slow is nice, but I don't know if that was the core reason people weren't playing Leshrac anymore. Lion, 75 cast range on Earth Spike, nice, but again, I don't really think that's the fundamental issue. Like, oh god, I just can't hit my Earth Spikes. I don't know. It's a buff. I don't think it's enough. I say this every time Lion gets changed, but like am I wrong? Does each individual buff not feel like every time? I don't know. Eventually it'll tip him over. Lycan, some agility increases. He's a universal hero. I guess maybe we'll see a little bit more Lycan. Marcy, sidekick cast range. Okay, it's not, I don't know. It's not really going to change the hero. Muerta, calling was very powerful. This felt like an ultimate, honestly, especially if you were playing Muerta support. And so it's losing 2 seconds off the duration at every level. That's pretty big. And then it is doing a lot less slow until it is maxed out. So 15% at level 1, 50% reduction. That's pretty sizable. So this should make it harder for Muerta to get early game kills with the calling, which is kind of what you were... I guess everyone's hoping to do it, but Muerta, like, she wants to have pretty good impact with her spells in the early game, so the spell's getting nerfed. If you're playing Muerta support, core Muerta, different, and I think core Muerta doesn't care as much about this, but the support Muerta, which was extremely popular at TI, this hurts. Necrophos was pretty good against a lot of the meta heroes, but he wasn't always being first phased or anything like that at TI. You kind of still had to wait to see that it was a good Necrophos game, and then you could pick him, but he would be very strong in those situations. So some nerfs just across the board on multiple abilities that should just hurt him overall. But I think a bigger thing that is going to hurt him is that many of the heroes he was good against all got nerfed, and so I don't think they're going to be picked as much, and then you're not going to want to be Necrophos as much. So another situation where I think he was good because of the meta. Now that the meta is shifting, I think he's going to drop a little bit. Primal Beast, here's one of the heroes Necrophos was good against and who helped define the meta. He was extremely popular, constant first phase ban or pick for many of the pro teams. Trample, going to have a flat mana cost of 90 now at every level, which is going to be a nerf in the later games, which is big for these strength heroes that we talked about earlier, right? They don't have a lot of mana to work with, so any extra mana increases throughout the game do add up and hurt these heroes. Pulverize cooldown also going up a little bit. One of the nice things about Primal Beast is he's such a low cooldown initiator for the early game. That's why you can so safely pick him, because it's such a stable laning stage. It's like, oh, what's he going to do if he's countered? He's going to run in and stun people, and like we're going to kill him. So it was always safe to pick, but now that it's going up in cooldown a little bit, it's hurting. It's still there, right? He's still one of the lowest cooldown initiators, especially BKB piercing initiators you can get, but it is just worse. Shadow Demon Hex buff. Whoa, I don't think that's really enough. Spectre base armor nerf. That's fair. She's one of the highest win rate pub heroes. She's very hard to deal with the new ultimate. It just feels like she can participate everywhere super early, so I think that's fair. Spirit Breaker, very good hero. The main thing here is the damage multiplier against creeps is being decreased from 1.5 to 1.3. When Spirit Breaker reaches that point, he can one-shot creep waves. You have issues. He will still reach that point, but it is going to take an extra item or two to make up the difference of this 0.2 multiplier against creeps, and that just gives you more time to deal with Spirit Breaker. He is not meant to be a hero who farms well and ganks well, so the fact that he had that so soon at like level 10, and he could do both really well, and it was very hard to deal with him, like, it was just very overwhelming. But now, because it's going to take an extra 5-10 minutes to reach that point, it should be easier to deal with Spirit Breaker. But he will eventually reach that point, so you still got to be careful. That's where Charge of Darkness nerfs might hurt him a bit more. Not so easy to get away. Like once you're in 1v5, you press W, you press Charge somewhere else. Right? There's a bit more cooldowns now, but it should still, like, you'll still reach a point where you're very good. Just your early game's worse. Timbersaw buff might be a little bit too late. He's going to do 3% more stat loss every time he hits someone with Whirling Death, which is really good versus tanky strength heroes that all just got nerfed this letter patch and might be dropping off. I'm not sure. It is a letter patch, so maybe they're not really dropping off, in which case maybe Timbersaw is, making his way up a bit, but he is an extremely unpopular hero despite, the fact that it makes sense what he offers for the meta, but just it wasn't enough, I guess. I guess there's too much that was good against him. So, yeah, he just saw very little play. I don't really know if this is enough to change that. Tiny, Avalanche, mana cost going down. This is very nice for the same reason we talked about earlier. He is a hero who does not have a lot of mana to work with, so 30 less mana at level 1 is very good for him. Treant Protector, arguably the best hard support of the last patch. Very good, even if he's not number 1. Losing 5 move speed, that's pretty painful. And then the Leech Seed, this 5 per pulse hurts more in the early game than the late game. I think you could probably still play him. Like, he's got like 55% win rate in pubs, maybe not that high. I predict 2%. I think his win rate will go down by 2%. He'll still be over 50, a decent chunk. So if you like Treant, I think you can still play him. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe Timbersaw comes back in. He kind of wrecks Treant Protector, but I think this is okay. Like, I think these are deserved nerfs because he was so good, but I don't think it completely kills the hero. Weaver gained a lot of popularity towards the end of TI, maybe continued into the KL qualifiers, maybe I missed it, I don't know, but he's getting nerfed here, less Geminate cooldown in the early levels, same at max level. That should make his laning stage a little bit worse. Really trying to make Winter Wyvern a hero again, so 10 extra base heal per second at every level flat. I mean, it's kind of a lot, guys. 30, from 30 to 40 flat heal, like, this thing lasts for 4 seconds at level 1, so that is a guaranteed 120 heal plus the max HP per second. I mean, we're really kind of getting to a point where it's quite a significant heal. So maybe she'll eventually come back. I don't know. Witch Doctor, so a nerf to Paralyzing Cask. It is going to do half, or it used to do double damage versus creeps, and it's now 1.5, so it's still bonus damage, but it's less than it used to be. Still a good farming tool, but much worse. Should be a lot harder to just throw out one Paralyzing Cask and completely kill a creep wave or maybe a neutral cam. I didn't test it myself yet, actually. Bad content creator here, but that's the idea here. The farming should be hurt, and that should make Witch Doctor have a harder time get to the Aghanims, which is very good in pubs. Speaking of which, Death Ward buffed? This is kind of one of those things where it's like, shouldn't it have already done this? And now that it does this, guaranteed, it's better than it used to be? Like, what are we doing to Witch Doctor? Why do we keep buffing him? But at a high level of play, most people were just targeting their ultimate anyways, so this isn't a huge change to them. But the low rank pubs, where Witch Doctor excels anyways, this is the buff, so I don't know. Witch Doctor Stonk still there, I think. And then Wraith King Skelly Boys are losing 3 damage, which is too bad. I think this is a really funny build. I'll probably still try it, but it's definitely, it wasn't even that popular to begin with, and now it's being nerfed. So that's it for this patch. Of course, it will take some time for it to settle out, and then I will start playing again, I swear, and I will bring you what I find and all that. We are getting back into the flow of things. In the meantime, if you're curious who I would try, I'd probably try out like Nature's and Pugna, because they looked pretty good last patch, and they didn't get touched here. Phoenix was good, didn't get touched, but a lot of the strength heroes that made Phoenix good did get nerfed. So I don't know, Phoenix might drop off as a result. Vengeful Spirit, probably still decent. Dazzle with Pavis sounds interesting. I might try that. It sounds pretty good versus physical damage, which you don't know the enemy's going to have a ton of physical damage when you first pick your support, but we play pub, so there's probably like 3 carry players on the enemy team all picking a hard carry, so like, I think it'll probably work out. It sounds interesting to me. I might try that. Those are just a couple off the top of my head. I think probably a lot of the supports you still like to play, probably still decent if you still want to play them into 7.34E, but of course, once I know for sure, I will let you guys know. Okay, that is it. Thank you for watching. Bye!